Plus. No matter which one fits your lifestyle, you'll love the comfort, performance, and safety. Stop by Terry Volkswagen on Forest Road in Lynchburg or check us out online at terrybw.com. Terry Volkswagen. You'll love our cars.
Most elves have pointy shoes. I have 4 paws.
Ho, ho, ho! Pallet, how's my favorite helper making the season shine?
Oh, just sprinkling a little color wherever I go. You see, Santa, my person's a veteran, and some days the memories are heavy. When her skies turn gray, I help fill her heart with shades of hope, the purple of laughter, the blue of courage, and the happy hue of joy.
Sounds like you're painting the world brighter.
That's right, Santa. I'm more than her service dog. I'm her living paintbrush. With every swoosh of my tail, I add a stroke of cheer to her canvas. With every longing gaze, I brush love on the picture we're creating together. A masterpiece, wrapped in warmth and tied with a bow.
Now that's a gift you can't put under a tree.
This season, help paint the picture. Learn more at dogsinc.org.
Oh, oh, oh.
80 million listeners depend on AM radio to always be on, delivering news, sports, talk, traffic, and weather reports you can trust. AM radio also delivers vital emergency information when you need it most. Text AM to 39179. Tell Congress to pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act to keep AM radio in cars.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Are you tired of static? Wish you could take your favorite Virginia radio stations with you wherever you go? Then you need to discover the power of streaming. That's right. You can now easily listen to the Virginia Talk Radio Network for insightful discussions and local news.
From the VTRN News Center, I'm Bill Shapiro.
And groove to classic hits on Rewind 1039. All from your smartphone, tablet, or computer. No more fiddling with the dial. Just download your favorite radio app, search for Virginia Talk Radio Network or Rewind 1039, and you're ready to go. Stay connected with your community.
Good morning. This is Kimberly McBroom in the WDBJ 7 newsroom with our Virginia Talk Radio Network news update.
And enjoy the music you love anytime, anywhere. Streaming the Virginia Talk Radio Network and Rewind 1039. It's that easy. Virginia Talk Radio Network, Rewind 1039. Now streaming.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
Vibes check time for our very own Trey Lyle. As we welcome you into the Fast Lane. Trey, how are you holding up after the third time in 4 games? The Virginia Tech Hokies have lost on a last-second shot, the most excruciating one being last night, the half-court buzzer beater at SMU.
I think I went through my emotions this morning on the morning warm-up with Trey Lyle and Ty Tracy, so definitely highly recommend checking that out. But wherever you podcast. But, yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm just kind of used to it being a Tech fan. When in doubt, they'll break your heart.
Well, I know.
And guess what? We keep receipts.
At the morning warm-up and VTRN Sports on Facebook Live and YouTube. But to get my usher on, I have not yet gone back and listened to the full rendition of what you and maybe we should call him therapist Ty Tracy was able to.
He just sat there, but yeah, kind of.
You know, he was a listener, a good listener for you apparently this morning. At least that's what I'm gathering speaking to you. Look, I get the heartbreak, but there are a level of self-inflicted mistakes that are also a reality for this Virginia Tech team. Now, I am not in the panic mode, as painful as this is. It could spiral out of control. Realistically, there's less of an excuse for these things to spiral out of control. To whom much is given, including
dollar bills, y'all.
More expectations are placed on the team. And therefore, if you're going to be paid
Dollar bills, y'all.
like a professional, then I don't think it's unreasonable, even if you're 18 to 21, 22, 23, whatever it is. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect you to behave like a professional, which is temper your emotions a little bit better, correct your mistakes, and respond to adversity. But this actually goes back to what Mike Young said when speaking on the Virginia Tech Hokies basketball postgame show right here on VTRN Sports, your home for Virginia Tech basketball, after the win, albeit come from behind and narrow to Cal this past Saturday.
We weren't great today. We're not playing great basketball. We're playing good basketball. We're going to be great here soon, and I look forward to that moment.
We're playing good basketball, not great basketball, to paraphrase what Mike Young said, not after the loss to SMU, but after the come-from-behind narrow victory against Cal. There are things that jump out. Maybe it's because I'm the unathletic relative to these specimens who play high-level sports, Division I or professional. But is there one thing that grinds the gears of your average fan more than missed points because of free throws? And I say missed points because of free throws because Tech missed the front end of 1-and-1 twice. I sound crotchety and old. Go ahead and guilty as charged me on this one. But the miss of a front end of a 1-and-1 to me is essentially 0 for 2 at the line. You miss the one and you miss the chance at a second one. Therefore, you miss 2 free throws in my book, even if statistically it only counts as one. There's got to be some advanced analytic out there that can capture that. And Virginia Tech has had this problem over the course, in particular, of this 3 out of 4 game losing. I wouldn't call it full streak because it's only a 1-game losing streak, but the last 4 games in which they have not looked very good. Or let me rephrase it. They've looked good, but good is not good enough in a much improved ACC. And when you miss the front end of a 1-and-1, when you miss clutch free throws, I get it. Ben Hammond statistically 80% from the foul line, but he missed a clutch free throw against Cal. He was a misser against SMU last night. He missed against Virginia, despite being perfect entering the overtime. And I get it, late in games. But at some point, you are also judged based on what you do down the stretch. And that's the reality, is you're missing free throws. And I know we're singling out Ben Hammond. He's not the only one. But again, I feel less bad when everyone on the roster is getting paid. If you're going to be treated like an adult financially, we'll treat you like an adult in terms of our analysis and critique of you. And when you combine that with turnovers at inopportune times, the ability or lack thereof to defend in crucial situations, that's where it's painful. Look, Boopy Miller, fun name as it might be, again, he pops up. We get these fun names on the radar from Po Boy King against Liberty in basketball, their last game. They'll be over tonight at 2. Icy Hopkins, the cornerback, D-I-C-E-Y. Not making that up, but one of my all-time favorite names to don a local uniform. Now, Boopy Miller, look, I got Abuka Okori from Stanford. I saw him against Virginia. He beat Virginia Tech. He went off. He's a great scorer and looks like he's got 1 and done or 2 and through written all over him. But when you consistently have these letdowns, there are some tactical things that can be done to improve it, and the little things add up. And part of the little things adding up are defense. But part of the little things adding up, Liberty fans say this all the time, but it's also free throw shooting when it matters most. Speaking of Liberty Flames, we will get into them momentarily as we get into the weeds. But you're at that beginning of the year. You're at a spot where you're getting into the weeds on your finances, meaning you're trying to be budget conscious. That's why if you're looking for indoor activities, and newsflash, walk outside now, going to be a lot like this upcoming weekend. So you need something to do. Maybe your kids need something to do. Here's a solution. Head to InsaneRadioDeals.com and get those day passes plus gear to Rise Up Climbing on Church Street in downtown Lynchburg, right at the tip of Church Street before you get ready to go up the big hill and then onto the old Business 29 to head south or turn left to go down the hill to head north. Right before you get there, day passes could come in handy to Rise Up Climbing, and it does include gear, so get them now at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Now, speaking of the Liberty Flames and speaking of free throws, when you find ways to win games, it does not pop up to be as big of an issue. And that's where we get a chance to get into that, into the weeds.
The haters say we get into the weeds. They may even say we get into the weed.
Smoke weed every day.
Nah, we love getting into the weeds to discuss some cool sports details here in the Fast Lane.
Look, part of the Liberty Flames' success, 7 wins in a row, 5-0 to start Conference USA play, and asserting themselves as the top team in the conference. One of the challengers falling off big time, you would have to presume. We'll get into that in the Fast Five at 5-ish because there's a bigger picture story there. But for the Liberty Flames, you've earned the benefit of the doubt. First of all, the core that returns from last year to this year is also the same core that got Liberty a Conference USA tournament championship in a regular season championship, although that's less valuable, especially in a neutral site. But Porter, Cleveland, Matheny. Now, Cleveland has a chance to join Porter and Matheny at the 1,000-point mark over at a 6 o'clock tip-off this evening. And, to get my usher on for just a second, there's a good chance I'll miss the beginning of that and that I will miss Zach Cleveland's 1,000th point because he's at 995 right now because, got to drive safely so that we don't have to call our friends at trostlaw.com or someone else doesn't have to.
No, you clearly just jinxed it, Ed.
What? Which jinx? Liberty's going to lose or which broadcast? Or
no,
he's not going to get
He's
points.
not going to get the 5 points by the time you get there because you just jinxed it.
Well, I'm cool with you. You're a broadcaster jinx person. By the way, hold up.
Time to take a detour in the Fast Lane.
Are you kind of, pretty much, or firmly a broadcaster jinx guy?
I am kind of.
Okay. I am largely a broadcaster jinx guy. Not the way my wife is, who is the biggest believer imaginable. Not just in Christ, but in broadcaster jinxes for the purpose of this argument. My wife is a huge believer in it, but I do believe it happens, and I try to withhold stats when doing Jefferson Forest Cavaliers football last year, presented by trostlaw.com, prayerfully again in the future as well. But, I try to withhold situations where I could jinx either team, but especially JF, because let's be honest, when they do well, it's good for us, along with all the local teams in the area. But for Liberty, back from the detour, by the way.
After Ed's potentially unnecessary detour, let's get back on the road in the Fast Lane.
We will get, by the way, more broadcaster jinx talk coming up at about 5:25 with Chris Coleman of TechSideline.com because did he apply the broadcaster jinx in an article? We will ask him about that when he joins us in a bit. But free throws for Virginia Tech were an issue. Free throws for Liberty have been an issue as well, and it's not like it's gotten a whole lot better for a player like Zach Cleveland or even at times Colin Porter and Katie Matheny down the stretch. Brent Decker Jr. has been good so far. Yes, for the sake of the broadcaster jinx, I am arguing that, but knowing my luck, he'll miss one, and Porter, Matheny, and Cleveland will all make him when it matters most, so they'll reverse it all completely. We're subscribing 100% here to the broadcaster jinx theory. But if you're Liberty, you will gladly take that trade-off for one, when you've got 3 other players who should theoretically be able to hit clutch free throws. And when Zach Cleveland gives you as much as he does in so many other areas, as Richie McKay mentioned, it's a trade-off he's worth making as well.
Historically, Matt, I think we've been a pretty good free throw shooting team. Obviously, Zach hasn't performed in that statistical category like he or we would want, but I'll take it. I don't care if he shoots 19% from the line. What he does to impact winning is ridiculous. And I'm not going to go Will Wade or anything like that on you, but like his impact is incredible. So, and he's shooting better now. But I do think that's an area that I've really never had concern until last year. It was really poor, but I don't know. You guys would know better. Bill would know. Like, I think our teams have been pretty efficient from behind the line. And why wouldn't they be? We recruit shooting. So
Matt Warner, the Matt mentioned at the beginning, Bill Smith, the Liberty SID, mentioned at the end of Richie McKay's comments on Zach Cleveland. But it is true. And Zach Cleveland gives you a lot. He can guard a number of positions. He can score inside and outside. Yes, his free throw shooting mysteriously is it's like it's been vaporized from being a really good free throw shooter entering Liberty, including to now being somebody that struggles from the line. But the reality for Liberty is they've earned the benefit of the doubt with this core that they can still overcome that, which is part of it. Part of also overcoming for the Liberty Flames is the fact that one of the challengers to them in Conference USA has gotten weakened tremendously. That in the back half of...
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
It's very convenient that this report came out right after Pittsburgh Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin announced that he was stepping away from being their head coach. But Adam Schefter reported that in spite of interest from several NFL teams, Marcus Freeman is still, keyword here, expected to remain at Notre Dame for the 2026 season, according to sources that have brought that information to Adam Schefter. I put up the expected part in bold caps lock quotes because if there was ever a position that I think could tempt Marcus Freeman to leave Notre Dame, some people expect Ohio State to be on that list because he's an Ohio State guy. I could see it, but I could also see him being very pleased with Notre Dame. They have been great to Freeman, and he's in a very good spot, especially if they get this ridiculous guarantee that they make the 12-team playoff, even if they're ahead of a team that is more deserving, which, here's a news flash. The committee could just flip the team so it's not an issue, and you can put Notre Dame down if you really don't want this situation to come up, because that's the reality of how you could structure this in the future. But I think the Steelers are the one franchise that's open right now that could tempt Marcus Freeman away because of their prestige and the fact that they give such a long leash. And I think you are in a spot where you could say that's one of the few that could rival what Notre Dame can do in terms of brand cachet in the history of football. When you think of football just to your average person, certainly Bama, Ohio State, maybe you throw Miami in there, LSU and college football, but Notre Dame is at the top of the list. I'll put USC in that category as well, Michigan, among others. But when it comes to football in general, the star on the helmet are those 3 little diamonds that are in the particular order for the Pittsburgh Steelers are iconic as well. And the Rooney family and the Steelers and their history of 6 Super Bowl championships, the most for a franchise tied with New England in the NFL, that's the deal breaker that could be why Marcus Freeman is expected, but not guaranteed, to be back at Notre Dame. By the way, speaking of Marcus Freeman,
Number 4.
St. Joseph's County prosecutors have announced they will not file charges against Marcus Freeman following an altercation at a high school wrestling meet earlier this month. The prosecutor's office finished an investigation following a complaint by Chris Flieger, I think is the name, an assistant wrestling coach at one of the schools in the area, where the allegation was that Freeman shoved him, although the video evidence suggests that is not exactly the case. Look, I bagged Notre Dame before, but kudos to them for defending Marcus Freeman. Kudos to this for being dropped. This seems like the type of scenario where wrestling coach / parent got way too excited. And if you've ever been around wrestling parents before, they are the chip on their shoulder, why does our sport not get enough credit type of supporter. And I admire it. My brother wrestled. My dad wrestled. I wrestled. I was good enough to be the dummy guy for the varsity, but not good enough to actually be on varsity. So I have a lot of respect for it. But from an aesthetic standpoint, it does not come close to basketball, football, hockey, motorsports, baseball, lacrosse, soccer, any of those. It just does not for your average person. It doesn't mean you're not an athlete. You have to be extremely mentally and physically tough. But it is way down on the pecking order. With all due respect, again, to our wrestling fans that are out there. But because of that, there are a lot of fans that get so excited and so inundated for their team, they lose all semblance of sanity. And yes, that might even extend it over to the coaches who accosted them. And sometimes people are also seeing this as unique opportunity. By the way, speaking of Marcus Freeman, a job he will not be taking in
Number 3,
the New York Giants job, because John Harbaugh and the New York Giants are finalizing an agreement to make Harbaugh the next New York Giants head coach, barring a setback. Trey, you might have covered this in the morning warm-up earlier today.
And guess what? We keep receipts.
At the morning warm-up at Fastlane and VTR in Sports on Facebook Live and YouTube. But to get my usher on, I have not listened to the full thoughts on this that you have there, so I will have to listen wherever the podcasts are found, usually on my audio version of podcasts. This job is a good one. There's a good quarterback in place. Harbaugh is demanding, but can he be as irrational as Brian Daboll was, trying to get quarterback Jackson Dart back in the game despite obviously being concussed, which may have been the deal breaker for why Brian Daboll had to go from the Giants? Look, as an Eagles fan, this is not the place I wanted to see John Harbaugh land, because it provides stability to a franchise that the ownership is very patient, similar to Baltimore. They've been rudderless for the last 15 to 20 years, really since the height of the Jim Fossil era, and even the height of the run where they made those 2 championships, Tom Coughlin era as well. Since then, they've been a real more rudderless franchise. But Harbaugh provides credibility and stability, and if you're looking at the ability to contend in that division, I mean, look, there's an obvious path. The Commanders have to remake their offensive line. The questions in Dallas are about their defense and what you get year to year for Jerry Jones. And the Eagles are going to have a lot of offseason decisions to retool their roster as well, with a lot of older, expensive players. So I think there's a chance the Giants can come in and hit the ground running with what John Harbaugh could bring in. Meanwhile, speaking of quarterbacks,
Number 2.
Eli Holstein to Virginia. Backing up, transfer Bo Prabula. Bryce Baker to Virginia Tech. Backing up, transfer Ethan Grunkmeyer. A lot of interesting ties here. Both of these quarterbacks, Holstein to UVA, Baker to Virginia Tech, are intra-ACC. Both of them are younger and in a chance where they could sit for a year and then develop. Granted, Grunkmeyer is unique because, if Baker redshirts, he's really only going to have 1 year to play if everything went well. Because Grunkmeyer is going to have 3 years as a starter, so Baker would have 1 year after that if everything goes according to plan. But there's the value in having a backup quarterback. Banged up offensive lines, injuries at the position. Virginia had the banged up offensive line. Tech's had injuries at the position recently. It's a smart investment to be making. Meanwhile, not smart investments, including in
Number 1.
a basketball sting that has unfolded today, where a number of players, 26 players have been charged in point-shaving scheme involving 29 games. The big picture thing to know about this, when you look at the volume, these are all bets that were over $200,000 that sent the radar up. And they were not bets on Duke, Carolina, or a Final Four game. They were bets on small schools where your average fan is not going to be betting games involving Texas Southern, Delaware State, Eastern Michigan, and whatever team they might be playing in their clearly one big league conference. So they're more susceptible because these are players in non-NIL heavy conferences. So they're not making the $100,000 a year plus to where they would tell somebody, I'm not going to get involved in point shaving. I'm not saying it doesn't happen or wouldn't happen at these schools, but given what we know now about the bigger conferences and how much they're paying players, it's less likely. So that's part of the reason why. The other thing to note about this is, of all the names, you're probably not going to recognize the majority of them, but there is one. Simeon Cottle, leading scorer, preseason Conference USA Player of the Year candidate for Kennesaw State. Look, this is the type of guy that is so impactful. I was listening to John Manson from the Sea of Red podcast that they did on basketball that dropped within the last 24 hours. And I was on board with them. I was looking at Kennesaw as a dark horse team with a size inside and a dynamic scorer in Simeon Cottle and going, maybe before I give up sports betting for Lent, which is probably going to happen this year, as it often does, I may sit there and go, you know what? I want to see if I can get to make the tournament or not on Kennesaw State. Thank the good Lord that option was not available. And thank the good Lord this news came out before, because that obviously is not going to happen. Liberty's challengers in Conference USA, I would strike Kennesaw from the list when you lose your top scorer and have this cloud of controversy surrounding you. Meanwhile, when we return in the fast lane, the Virginia Tech Hokies, they finally have their quarterback. They have to bounce back from heartbreak in basketball. And the man who will break it all down for us, Chris Coleman of TechSideline.com, slated to step into the fast lane next.
Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your trusted dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Your search ends at the Motor Mile. Choose from over 900 quality pre-owned vehicles, plus a massive selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, plus the used car superstore. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles at one location. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got more than any other dealer in the area. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. Here's the difference. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile with a certified friendly staff and no games, no gimmicks. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Hi, I'm Randy Trost with Trost Law. We've seen a lot since 1982. One new issue is an increasing number of uninsured drivers. Unfortunately, when these drivers are at fault for an accident, there's a higher likelihood that they'll flee from the scene, leaving you with a potential mess. So in shopping for your auto insurance policy, please keep in mind that strong, uninsured motorist coverage can protect you from this headache. And if you've been injured in a motor vehicle accident, call us at 777-HURT and visit trostlaw.com.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just fixing problems. We empower your staff with real technology so they can work smarter every day. From repairs to training to full IT support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call We Fix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590, where smart support meets real savings.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
The broadcaster jinx. Trey and I are believers. My wife is a big believer. Do we have to give a guilty as charged to our next guest? Let's find out. Chris Coleman of TechSideline.com is with us here in the Fast Lane. Chris, you had an article a couple of weeks ago at TechSideline.com to get my usher on for a moment. I can't remember exactly the title of that article, but you were talking about how the luck factor was in Virginia Tech's favor in the early going of the season, and then all of a sudden 3 of the last 4 games have transpired since then. So, do we need to charge you as guilty with the broadcaster jinx?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe something I'm more guilty of is on Monday when we had a podcast and we were talking about last week's Stanford game, and I said that was one of my worst 3 or 4 moments ever as a Virginia Tech basketball fan. And I talked about that, and then lo and behold, 2 days later, exactly 1 week after the Stanford game, we had another moment exactly like that, except this one was worse. So I would probably say 2 of my 4, 5, 6 worst moments as a Virginia Tech basketball fan have come in the last 8 days, which is absolutely incredible to think about and very demoralizing also.
There's the emotional toll for a player or coach, but particularly player because they're younger. Am I off base in thinking if you're going to pay these players, and let's be real here, most of them are getting compensated now, you should expect them to conduct themselves as professionals and therefore be able to put these type of emotional losses behind them, both in terms of the emotional side of it, but also working on correcting things like costly missed free throws and turnovers, which have plagued Virginia Tech and led to those opportunities.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. Now, look, these are highly competitive guys. I mean, they wouldn't be playing at this level if they weren't. So whether they're getting paid $0 or a bunch of money, they don't like going through games like that, and I'm sure they'll work hard to try to prevent that from happening again. But it's just one of those things where the Virginia Tech could have put the game away. You can talk about the missed front ends of the 1-and-1, but I think back to that inbounds pass that the SMU player got his hands on and threw it off of Dallas, and they scored on the ensuing inbounds, and that took it from 4 points to 2 points. And to me, that was probably the biggest play in the game right there.
Chris Coleman, TSL, Twitter, TechSideline.com, and the TSL podcast are ways to keep up with him. We are at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and however you listen to podcasts, or just listen live on the VTRN Sports app, your home for Virginia Tech basketball, football, and baseball. That does include women's basketball as well. Chris, you touched on these things for Virginia Tech basketball and the ability to correct them. How much of the next stretch? I know they've got Louisville next Saturday, but you got Notre Dame at home. You're on the road at Syracuse. Are there opportunities where Virginia Tech realistically could put this behind them and still be right in the thick of a legitimate NCAA tournament conversation, even by the end of January?
Sure. Well, look, I mean, this team, if you look at their ACC games, every one of them has been decided by 3 points or fewer or gone to triple overtime, right? So they're bad enough to be 0-5 in the ACC. They're also good enough to be 5-0, right? Now, they're somewhere in between, which is what generally happens in situations like that. But, you see them make some bad plays, and you think, oh, gosh, they're not very good. But then at the same time, that they're just a couple plays away from being 5-0 in the league, which is pretty incredible to think about. And, you got Notre Dame coming up this Saturday. They're without their best player. They haven't been playing good basketball since conference play started. And then Syracuse, they're not that great this year, but at the same time, up there in the Carrier Dome, it's a difficult place to play, and it's an opportunity for I think they'd be a quad one win based on what they are in the net right now. But that was a disappointing part of the game. Even with Virginia Tech making all those mistakes, Hoopy Miller still had to make a half court shot, right? And he did, and that was it. You go from that would have doubled Virginia Tech's number of quad one wins. They had won that game last night, then they're definitely in the NCAA tournament if it started tomorrow. Their resume would be good enough, but now they're probably last 4 out, which is where they were going into the game yesterday. So it's not so much losing the game. It's just like that was an opportunity, right? And you've got a lot more of those opportunities this year, but for the rest of the season, I think Virginia Tech has maybe as of right now, they only have one more quad one win opportunity at home, and all the rest are on the road, and it's very difficult to win on the road. So when you have a chance to win one and you didn't, that's disappointing.
I presume the one at home is Duke in a couple of weeks. I'm going out on
Correct.
a limb there.
Yeah, going out on a limb there.
It's more like a tree trunk, a root for the tree, if you want to call it. Chris Coleman with us here in the Fast Lane. Chris, what does it say, though, about the ACC that in spite of all this, Tech's close losses, difficult schedule ahead, that the ACC is strong enough where, if Tech can hold serve and maybe pluck a good road win or two, they're still right in the thick of things, whereas last year, this would have been real devastating.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there just weren't that many opportunities for quad one wins at all last year. The talent in the league was down, not that Virginia Tech had a chance last year anyway, but the fact, Virginia Tech was not a good basketball team at all last year, and they still went 8-12 in the ACC, and I think that said a lot about how down the conference is. So there'll be plenty of more opportunities, but at the same time, there'll be plenty of more opportunities for everyone else as well. So when you have one, when you're grasping one like that, like Tech had that game last night. But if you went on ESPN and look at the win probabilities with 7 seconds left, to be 90-95% for Virginia Tech, and somehow you managed to lose that. Same thing against Stanford. It's just incredible, and it's hard to imagine even. But you got to put it behind you at this point. I said that before ACC play started, with Lawal hurt and Tyler Johnson hurt. I said I would think if you can start 3-3 in ACC play, that would be a success considering those injuries. And if they beat Notre Dame on Saturday, they'll be 3-3. But you'll always look back at that game and the Stanford game and say, man, what could have been?
In listening to a bit of the TSL podcast that you dropped today, Chris, I know you and David and Andy and Carter all talked about Ethan Gruckmeyer and now officially being committed to Virginia Tech as their quarterback. Did the coaching staff ever operate like this was not going to happen, or behind the scenes, were they operating and even pitching to other prospective signees that Gruckmeyer was going to be the guy all along?
I don't know of any other starting caliber quarterback that visited Virginia Tech, which means they were very, very confident they were going to land him from the very beginning. So, I think he was plan A, and I think he committed from the very beginning. And these days you have to deal with certain things behind the scenes. Like, one rumor I heard is that one of his NIL contracts, Penn State, was for a year, and it expired this week, so he had to wait. But I don't know. I don't know if that's fact or not. There's no way to know because we can't see contracts or anything like that. Even though these guys are basically employees these days, we still don't know their compensation or how it's done or things like that. But I think Virginia Tech knew he was in the bag the whole time.
with that being said, he's one of a slew of players from Penn State who have committed to Virginia Tech. That would be natural considering the coach they brought in coached and recruited most of these guys with their Penn State connections. How confident are you, though, with all this Penn State infusion, that it's not just a talent upgrade, but it's a coachable, can make a quick impact talent upgrade?
Yeah, I think the benefit to it is, James Franklin spent all last offseason, all last spring, all last summer, all last winter, and the first half of this past season with all those Penn State players. He's not going to take one if he didn't think the player had the potential. It's different when you recruit somebody out of the transfer portal that you've been around with on a daily basis. You know his work habits on a daily basis, and you know what he's capable of. You've got a pretty good idea of what his ceiling is. If you're recruiting portal kids from other schools, you can get a good idea of his talent level, but you don't know some of those other things, and especially applies to high school recruiting. So I think coaches like to go with familiarity, and he's familiar with those Penn State guys, and I don't think any Penn State player could have come to him and say, "Hey, I want to come with you to Virginia Tech." But I think anybody he felt confident in their development that he had seen, since last January, he was going to bring aboard. So I think that will help him. It's a lot of young players, but at the same time, it does raise Virginia Tech's talent level. It raises its ceiling, and I think with the schedule for Virginia Tech this coming year, you're at Miami, you're at Clemson, you're at SMU. Bringing in just a bunch of seniors this year wouldn't have made any sense, because then you have to rebuild it all over again next year. So you sign a bunch of guys with multiple years of eligibility left, you get this year's difficult schedule behind you, and then you really go forward in 27 and 28 when the schedule gets on paper more manageable. I think Virginia Tech will definitely be an improved football team this year, no question in my mind, but I don't think they'll be reaching their peak until a couple of years after that.
So I also listened to the part of the TSL podcast today from TechSideline.com's Chris Coleman with Andy Bitter, Carter Hill, and David Cunningham Andy Bitter and Carter Hill, this part in particular, about the scheduling itself. I get they canceled James Madison and they were going to keep VMI on because of a slower schedule. Am I unreasonable, though, to flip it around and say that, if you're Virginia Tech, this is the ACC that we're talking about. Why not keep a school like JMU around? Because while there are a bunch of challenging opponents, it's not like you're going up against the gauntlet that you would in a more challenging conference.
Yeah, and we don't know exactly what JMU is going to be next year. I mean, they lost their coach, and they had a lot of really good players on that team, and in a lot of cases, they're getting gutted. And when Cignetti gutted them, it took them a year. They had a good 9-win season in 2024, but it took them a year to build back to a really, really top-notch JMU. And it'll probably be the case again. They'll have a down year next year, relatively speaking, for them. So I don't know exactly what the cause of it was. I know it obviously makes it complicated when the ACC comes in and say, "Hey, we're going to play a 9-game schedule now, and by the way, you're going to go on the road for an extra game in the first year. So you've got to get rid of one of those games." I kind of feel I've always felt embarrassed about playing VMI either way, because that's just going to be a shellacking, man. And I feel bad for the VMI guys. They actually shouldn't be subjected to a game like this, but it is what it is.
When will we get to a point in college basketball, college football, college athletics in general, but especially college football, where these Power 4 programs stop scheduling 1AA schools, I'm just going to call them that, and even just say, let's treat the group of 5 like the 1AA school? Because the idea of JMU upsetting Tech or Appalachian State upsetting Michigan seems more far-fetched, given that the best players from those JMUs and App States might just transfer to the Virginia Techs and Michigans. So the risk of playing them is not nearly what it was years ago.
Yeah, that's probably true. I'd have to go and study the results over the last few years to know it for sure. I think there are certain FCS or 1AA programs, like, I don't think I'd be going out of my way to schedule one of those like North Dakota or South Dakota schools, because they seem really, really good. But yeah, I think with the transfer portal, anybody who slips through the cracks at the high school level and ends up in an FCS school, you're going to know pretty quick they should be jumping up a level, and that's going to make it hard for some of those programs to build consistently and maintain and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think you will gradually get to that at some point. I just don't know when it's going to be. Hopefully sooner rather than later, because I hate unbalanced scheduling. It's one of my pet peeves, and as time has gone on, scheduling has just got even more and more unbalanced. Like, you're telling me the ACC is now going to be playing a 9-game schedule, and of course, the SEC and other leagues are doing the same thing. I'd rather play a 10-game schedule, because at least you get more ACC opponents, and at least you have the same number of home and away games. It should never be an odd number. It just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Chris Coleman of TechSideline.com with scheduling opinions here in the Fast Lane. So we will wrap it up on this one. VMI is scheduled to be the opener for the James Franklin era. I know you'd love to open James Franklin's era at home, but Tech's got more road games in the ACC, 5 than at home 4. Plus, they're at Maryland while they're just hosting VMI and Old Dominion. If you're the ACC, or if you're Virginia Tech, do you go to the ACC and say, hey, look, North Carolina and TCU are going to be early from Ireland in week 0. Late, you would presume, is going to be NC State and Virginia, which thankfully is an actual ACC game this year. Could we put that Boston College game in the middle? And normally Tech Boston College wouldn't get a big number, but when there's not much competition, it would. And if you're Tech, I'd much rather go to Boston College in August than go there in November when, granted, Blacksburg's pretty cold too, but the weather stinks and the atmosphere may be even worse.
I say that, but like the last time Virginia Tech played Boston College in August, early season that I remember was the 2019 season opener, and Boston College won. I do think there's something I don't know how much Virginia Tech fought against the scheduling thing. Not only do they have to start off with the James Franklin era with 5 ACC road games, but anybody who's bought season tickets for Virginia Tech, your average fan doesn't pay attention until the scheduling is actually announced. So if you've already bought your season tickets, you assumed you're going to have 7 home games next year, which was what was originally planned, and now you've only got 6. You paid for 7, you're getting 6. For all I know, Virginia Tech put up a huge fight behind the scenes about this, but it didn't matter. But I don't know that they did. I don't know that they didn't. But I do think the ACC is missing the boat a little bit. You've got a really, really high-profile coach in your league now. Probably second only to Dabo, and honestly, he's dropped off because his program's dropped off. So you've got a high-profile coach, and his opening game. Not only does he have to play 5 road games in his very first season, but his opening game is going to be against VMI most likely. I do think that's a missed opportunity for the ACC, but hey, it's just the ACC we're talking about, so it can't be too surprising.
I'm at a loss for words that you would be shocked that the ACC misses the boat on something. I mean, when I think proactive, getting their ducks in a row, the ACC is exactly the bastion of all that.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's never been a league for great decisions. At the same time, like it's backed into a corner a little bit because you've got Wake Forest in the league, you've got Duke in the league, you've got Boston College in the league. You've got all these small schools with small private schools with small fan bases, right? So there's just not that much money to go around, so to speak. We've never been in a great position. There's not enough big football schools in this conference, to be honest with you. So they've gone out there and they've done things like tell Miami, okay, you can keep all your playoff money, right? And Miami, of course, should be thanking Florida State and Clemson for that, because when they pitched a fit, that was the incentive for them to stay, or part of it at least. Virginia Tech has been in a league like that before, and they benefited from it. Like when Virginia Tech went to the Sugar Bowl in '95 and the Orange Bowl in '96, when they were in the Big East, they got to keep that money, right? They didn't have to split all of it with the rest of the Big East, like most conferences do. They as a result, they were able to build the Merriman Center, which at the time was the best football facility in the country, and they started doing the South End Zone expansion. So Virginia Tech has benefited from a structure like this before, but the Big East did not Like, it was not good for the conference as a whole, and eventually that conference died. So time will tell whether this setup is good for the ACC or not, but it's certainly going to be good for Miami this year.
Chris Coleman is good for us in our knowledge of Virginia Tech, techsideline.com. Chris Coleman, TSL, and with us here in the Fast Lane. We're at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts. If you've missed anything so far, Chris, thank you for your time. Always love catching up with you, and we'll chat soon.
All right, appreciate it, fellas. Take care.
Chris Coleman with us here in the Fast Lane. When we return, we'll shift the vibes with our chief vibes guy, Drew Dinsick, stepping into the Fast Lane next here on the VTRN Sports app and Fast Lane, Ed Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your trusted dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Your search ends at the Motor Mile. Choose from over 900 quality pre-owned vehicles, plus a massive selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep brand, plus the used car superstore. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles at one location. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got more than any other dealer in the area. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. Here's the difference. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile with a certified friendly staff and no games, no gimmicks. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Hey, Hokie fans, are you still getting your Hokie sports news from other outlets, or even worse, the newspaper? Well, you're missing out. Tech Sideline has assembled the largest and most talented team to ever cover Virginia Tech athletics. If you want Hokie sports coverage that is second to none and will make you the smartest fan at the tailgate, subscribe to TechSideline.com for just $12 a month or $120 a year. Tech Sideline, all Hokie, all the time, period. Subscribe today at TechSideline.com.
Do you have a sports card and memorabilia collection?
Wow.
Did you inherit one? Not sure what to do with it? BNC Sports has been your local hobby store for over 30 years, and they'll provide their professional assessment and can cash you out. No collection is too big or too small, so don't drop the ball. Stop by the mall or give us a call. BNC Sports, the game starts here.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
I don't know what the play-by-play was when Big Dom caught the ball or when Big Dom broke up the fight with A.J. Brown and Nick Sirianni because I was listening to the NFL playoffs on your home for the playoffs, the VTRN Sports app, and 93.3 FM, although it was at my parents' house, so it was on the VTRN Sports app. But when I saw it, it prompted me to contact the man who coined the phrase in honor of Big Dom himself, Chief Vibes Guy, Drew Dinsick from NBC Sports Bet the Edge and the Deep Dive Podcast, who is with us in the Fast Lane. Chief Vibes Guy, how are the vibes with you?
Oh, man. Summer in January here in Southern California, man. 75 degrees out right now, sun blazing. It's going to be sunny throughout the weekend. You know what it makes me feel like? I'm in Melbourne getting ready to enjoy the Australian Open because it is summer in the Southern Hemisphere, obviously. But yeah, great week of sports heading up with the divisional round and the Australian Open kicking off and everything else going on. That's fun.
Hold your horses on the Australian Open. We'll get there in a moment. You're talking about your vibes, and meanwhile, I'm not going to do it literally. But one of these two fingers would come down to document with being 35 degrees and a wind chill of like 20 today where we are in Virginia. So we're at like half your temperature today, and we do have wind. So that's where we are. We get the feeling of what you will be feeling for some of these NFL playoff games this weekend. So we'll go there first with Drew Dinsick here in the Fast Lane. AFC betting market says coin tosses for both of those games, including the one Saturday that will kick off the action right here on VTRN Sports with Buffalo against Denver. That market is flip-flop back and forth. Are you with the market that these both are expected to be coin flip type games?
Yeah, you could pretty much pitch any of the foursome. Any of the four combinations as far as this is what the AFC Championship game will be, and I'll listen. I personally think it'll be Broncos Pats. I'm with the market in flipping Broncos favorite here. I feel like the number we got on the open, some of it was influenced a little bit by people being like, man, Josh Allen just played a perfect playoff game. How can you bet against him right now? Some of it was probably influenced by like, yeah, this is about what the price ought to be in a neutral type of situation. And then as people digested, I think the state of the Buffalo Bills roster as far as injury goes, combine that with the state of the rest and advantage that the bye has and the home field has for the Broncos in this spot. And it's a 2.5 point adjustment. So Broncos flipping favorite makes sense to me. I could see them close 1.5, 2 point favorites here. You're actually, the case to be made for the Broncos is pretty straightforward, which is their defense is going to, have a multitude of ways to put pressure on this Buffalo offense, whereas the Buffalo offense doesn't have a lot in terms of answers right now, leaning very heavily on Khalil Shakir and Kincaid and Cook. And, outside of that, there's a lot of guys out there running around that are not going to be able to create separation, not make game-breaking plays for Buffalo. So Josh Allen still a bit limited with the injuries he's sustained to this point in the season. I don't take exception at all to Denver being a small favorite. Last week's outcome ultimately came down to Trevor Lawrence putting the ball in harm's way a couple times. He is want to do that. Bo Nix is a lot more safe with his operation of the quarterback position in general. When he is, unable to fit in a tight window throw, he's throwing it away or throwing it out of reach of the defender as opposed to putting it in a place where the defender can make a play on the ball. He is very good at avoiding huge negative plays with sacks. And so ultimately, I think the plan for Sean Payton and company is to come in, have a run-heavy approach, find ways to shorten the game and, not really put Bo Nix in a place where he has to be a hero and let their defense do the rest. And I think that will work. I think the total is a hair too high. I would make this closer to 43. So under looks like a good bet to me. I got an earlier bet in on the Broncos before they flip favorite. At this point, I would probably walk away.
We should have fun when it comes to these games. Do you have any confidence in either quarterback in the Houston-New England game, the other AFC?
I'm going to go in the entirely contrarian direction. I have confidence in both. I think this is going to be a little bit of a shootout. I know this is the lowest total on the board. I know that sort of the armchair analysis after you watch the Patriots defense look surprisingly good against the Chargers, and then the Houston defense completely take over and win that game on Monday is, oh man, we are going to have a rock fight on our hands here. I don't see it that way. I think this is a pretty decent step up for the Patriots defense, going from playing a broken Chargers team to, at least a competent, balanced offensive attack for Houston. I think there's an argument to be made that some of the playoff yips, CJ Stroud got him out of the way in the first half of that game and ultimately settled into, really efficient and explosive passing in the second half, particularly that fourth quarter. And then on the flip side of the ball, if there is one type of, kind of archetype of quarterback that will give this Houston defense difficulty, it's going to be the type of quarterback who can overcome the negative plays. Who gets sacked and then stands back up and fires 30-yard rockets. And that is exactly what Drake May has been all season. He has taken third, fourth most sacks across the NFL this year, and yet still has the highest EPA per play or total EPA generated of any quarterback, which I think is fueled by his outstanding explosive home run hitting type of style. And so I don't know ultimately that I have a lot of confidence that this is going to be a competitive game for the Texans. I think there's a lot of worlds where the Patriots win by, at least one score, if not double digits. But I think this thing is going to fly over 40.5. In general, I think this total should be more like 44, 45, and I could definitely see it sniffing 51 if we get a couple of home runs.
Our chief vibes guy, Drew Dinsick from NBC Sports Bet the Edge, is with us here in the fast lane. We'll get to the Australian Open in just a moment here, but the NFC side of things, are we staring a Rams-Seahawks matchup right in the face, or do you see a scenario particularly where maybe the younger Sean McVay Matt Stafford combo of Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson could find a way to upstage the more veteran QB coach combination.
Yeah, I haven't heard them described that way, but I totally buy that. I think it's pretty likely we're going to see Seahawks Rams in the NFC Championship game. I bet both of those teams this week as favorites. I think in general, the advantages are pretty obvious. I don't think there's much that Seattle can do. Not much that San Francisco can do to thwart the best defense in football in Seattle on the road and at full strength. And I don't think there's much the Bears defense can do to slow down Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford here. I do worry a little bit that the Rams defense is a little fraudulent. Certainly their secondary has clear and obvious places to attack. Ben Johnson, I have an enormous amount of respect for what he's done so far this season. I don't really understand why it's not being covered with more glowing praise. His particular way that he's scheming, the high leverage stuff for Caleb Williams to give him options downfield, running open in holes in the defense when he is trying to create out of structure it all feels very synergistic. And it is probably, like you're saying, like the start of a beautiful relationship that will bear fruit for years to come. However, I think McVay and Stafford are the team to beat in this entire playoffs. I only have one feature in my book, and it's the Rams. I think McVay wins ring number 2 this year. And in general, I think they can pretty well do it any way they want to. It's going to be mostly interesting for me watching this game to see which way they elect to. Was a little surprised in the Panthers game that they didn't run more 13 personnel. They didn't lean into some heavier sets. I thought they could have played a little bit more ball control and really, force the Panthers to be more precise with their opportunities in that game. They didn't. I think in general, the setup here with the cold weather, with Stafford having a sprained finger, not really needing to put your guys in harm's way. I would expect 40 rushing attempts for the Rams in this contest between Williams, Corum, and Puka. And I think the Bears defense without Edmonds is in deep trouble here. They don't really have a linebacking core at all. I'm not sure how they're tackling the Rams unit when they get to the second level. So you could see some explosive runs here for the Rams. And I don't think I have any reservations that they're going to find ways to get into the end zone when they're in the red zone, particularly with the way that Stafford is using his tight ends. So this has a little bit of a whiff of Bears Niners from the regular season to me, where the Bears put up a very impressive effort, found ways to score touchdowns, found ways to keep it entertaining and close. But then one drive that ended in a field goal, you just kind of shrugged. You're like, well, that's probably it. And then sure enough, they had the ball last with a chance to win, couldn't find a way to do it. This is kind of the same sort of feeling I get with this one. I think the Rams are going to win. I think they're going to walk it in. But there's absolutely a world where the Bears are able to score points and answer, and this becomes one of the most fun games of the weekend.
As somebody who might be holding a 26-1 preseason Rams ticket, I'm getting
nice bet.
I'm getting nervous though. It's sounding a little too easy. Now I'm having to, I'm having to think about this, Drew. You're causing me some consternation here.
I mean, the sweat's going to be next week. There's a world where the Rams are on their third roadie in a row in Seattle up against a defense that they didn't really solve this year. That's going to be tricky.
It is. We'll cross that bridge when we get there and maybe even connect again with Drew Dinsick of NBC Sports Bet the Edge, our Chief Vibes guy. He also has the Deep Vibe podcast as well with Andy Molitor. Now, Australian Open on W227 BG Timberlake, WVGM AM Lynchburg, WMNA, Gretna Danville Southside, and the VTRN Sports app. Is this the Center Sabalenka Invitational coming up?
It is. Next question.
All right.
Honestly, yeah.
So you would be more shocked if Sinner or Sabalenka does not win. Why?
More shocked if Sinner doesn't win. There's obviously the Sinner and Alcaraz have been trading slams for like 2 years now, which is amazing. But the advantage on hard court is pretty clearly Sinner. the advantage on fast hard court is pretty clearly Sinner. And for those who follow tennis at a more casual level, I think the market is a little shy on how important Juan Carlos Ferrero was to Alcaraz's success. A lot of what I would see in match when he was at war with Sinner was Ferrero basically instructing him on strategic, this is how you should attack this guy. This is what you need to be doing. Particularly at the U.S. Open, it felt like his strategy was executed to an outstanding degree, but that felt like it had all the fingerprints of Juan Carlos on it. So he changes coaches. I don't know much about his relationship with the new guy, and I don't know much about how they're going to be able to find ways into Sinner's game. But Sinner is at another level when it comes to hardcore performances. And even though he is the 2 seed in this tournament, I think he is a pretty clear favorite to me. I've seen some public models have him in like the 52-53% ballpark to win the title. I'm closer to 60 here. And yeah, I'll be a little bit floored if Sinner does not win. And you always have in your back of your pocket who is more likely to get there. It is almost certainly Sinner. I mean, Alcaraz has shown an ability to space cadet at times in early in tournaments as he is trying to play his way into form. We'll see if that manifests at all. He's got a little bit of a difficult quarter compared to Sinner, in my opinion. So yeah, certainly a world where Alcaraz doesn't get there and Sinner has he's minus 500 in the final.
Is it worth a Sinner at 12-1 or Sabalenka at 18-1 to win it without dropping a set?
Ooh, that's an interesting idea. I think if you want to do something fun or crazy, as far as exotics, either or both of those players to calendar sweep kind of interests me.
Ooh, okay.
That of course would mean winning all 4 slams this year. I guess, like, again, I could be completely missing the boat on why Alcaraz would switch coaches, and maybe he just needed a new voice. Maybe he's learning some things. He's going to be able to deploy strategy that no one sees coming, and that could be his advantage. Okay, I need to see it to believe it. I think there's absolutely a world where this is a year of growth for him, and Sinner ultimately takes home all the hardware.
Oh, wow, that'd be quite wow. Well, somebody's got him at 4-1 odds to get 3 of the 4. I would be glad with 3+ Grand Slams. I'd be all right with that too. So again, prayers that it happens. Outside if it does, that'll be a little weird in the church offering plate when they see what the check is written for. But hey, it is what it is. Now we love dark horses too. I'm not under the guise that there will be a dark horse in the men's side at all, and maybe not even in the women's. But if you give us a dark horse, either on the women's side to win or a dark horse to win their quarter, get to the semifinals, and make this interesting, who do you have your eye on? One man, one woman.
Yeah, so I didn't answer your question entirely the correct way when you asked who's more likely between Sinner and Sabalenka. Like, it's not Sinner because he's better. It's Sinner because he's playing best of 5. Sabalenka is playing best of 3. That just introduces more randomness, more potential for something insane to happen. She could very much wake up on the wrong side of the bed one day, or shoulders not feeling great, or serves going out of, going all over the place. And, she's run from the tournament. Like, that absolutely happens when it's best of 3. It's much tougher with best of 5. So if I'm looking for long shots, if I'm looking for, just true from the clouds type of players, I'm almost exclusively shopping women's. And the women that have been playing well, whose games particularly shine on this fast of a hard court, unfortunately ended up in the same quarter as Iga Swiatek. Like, the two names that you were the most curious where are they going to land were Elena Rybakina and Naomi Osaka. Like, I was waiting with bated breath to see the draw, and sure enough, they're both Q4. That's brutal. On top of that, Belinda Bencic, who's been playing great, she is in Q4. Elise Mertens, who's weirdly serving incredibly well right now, she's in Q4. Ludmila Samsonova, who has like a ceiling that can surprise players, is in Q4. They, like everyone who you might want to just kind of consider as a wild card all in the same spot of the draw, and only one of them obviously is even going to get to the semifinal, and it's probably just going to be Iga. So that threw a lot of cold water on my hopes for like a true blue out of the clouds long shot. I think Sabalenka almost certainly wins Q1, and one of the top 3 win Q4. Which means that, again, if you're looking for someone who's going to be around deep into week 2, that's going to truly, catch some women by surprise. The one I got for you is Czech woman, Czechia woman. They keep changing the name there on me, but Czechia woman named Linda Noskova. She's 21 years old. She is what I would consider her on her strongest surface here, which is fast hard. She has not had a good start to 2025 so far. She's lost 3 straight to Bouzkova, Anisimova, and Bencic. But to me, watching those matches was a lot of like, kind of getting, her legs under her. Oh, excuse me. I had the wrong results up for her. She lost to just to Mira Andreeva this year so far. Lost to Bencic at the end of last year. But either way, I think her numbers and what she did at the throughout the closing portion of 2025 on hard courts was enough to make me pay attention, and I think she could do something cool coming through Q3 at a monster price, because just nobody's really heard of her or seen her do it before. Your stronger competitors in that quarter are all Americans: Pegula, Keys, and Anisimova. None of them really in especially impressive form right now. Keys notably, who is your defending champion. So yeah, Noskova for me in Q3 is a fun from the clouds wild card. And then Mukova, who is a player I think a lot of people know also from Czechia, is in Q2. That's, of course, Coco Gauff's quarter. She could certainly beat Gauff on hard court the way Gauff's serving right now. And Mira Andreeva doesn't really scare me either. So I have Mukova circled in Q2, Noskova circled in Q3. But ultimately, I think Sabalenka takes them all down.
There it is. Our Chief Vibes guy, Drew Dinsick, with us here in the Fast Lane. Drew, always love catching up with you. Appreciate it. We will keep it locked to NBC Sports Bet The Edge. Your updates at Whale_Capper on your socials, as well as the Deep Dive podcast with Andy Molitor. Appreciate it. We'll love to catch up again in another week or two as the Australian Open and NFL playoffs both continue to progress.
Hey, thanks for having me, and best luck.
Indeed. Always our pleasure to chat with our Chief Vibes guy, Drew Dinsick, with us here in the Fast Lane now, as Liberty basketball is playing tonight to get ready for that one. So off here, we're back tomorrow. Meanwhile, Virginia Tech Lady Hokies basketball coming up in just a bit. As we get you set for that, we'll be back tomorrow at 5 o'clock, VTR and Sports App 93.3 FM.